Phar was a champion racehorse whose achievements inspired the Australian public during the early years of the Great Depression. His successes were crucial to the level of attention he received, though not exclusive. The infatuation with sport and Australian culture, coupled with the attitude of society during the Depression years, created the necessary climate for this recognition to occur. Tui and Taylor observed that until recently, celebrity in Australia has been almost exclusively concentrated on sport. This is associated with the strong link between sport and nationalism that has developed within Australian culture. Since independence, Australia has been a nation that has taken satisfaction in its sporting achievements and prided itself on the success of its sporting greats. Sport developed a strong sense of nationalism that helped to unify Australia and bridge inequalities throughout its past. It is considered by the majority to be a key element of the Australian identity, having always had a prominent presence in the nation's history and culture. In his book, The Lucky Country, Horne asserts that to play sport or to watch others read and talk about it is to uphold the nation and build its character. Thus, it was programmed into the Australian mindset that athletes embodied the Australian nation, and because there was so much attention and importance placed upon sport, they would become idolised and even hero-worshipped by the public. This level of shared devotion for sport has led to some, such as journalist Keith Dustin, to describe sport as the super-religion of Australia. Similarly, Cusack and Degents argue that the Melbourne Cup specifically has religio-spiritual aspects, functioning as a pilgrimage event for secular Australians. They claim that the Cup provides local Melburnians and a plethora of interstate tourists with an opportunity to pay homage to many demigods, those being any key figures involved, such as the horses and jockeys. Phar Lap's legend is a key example of this theory. Known as the People's Horse, his story as a figure of hope and strength to a struggling population mirrors that of a god, and the ways in which Phar Lap's legacy has been immortalised through things such as portraits, shrines, and the preservation of his remains are like those of religious relics. The Australian people verbally depicted their hero in a biblical sense, romanticising his mere existence. Peter Porter's famous poem, which is featured alongside Phar Lap's Melbourne exhibit, is an indisputable example of the degree of worship the stallion received both in life and death. Porter writes, "A horse with a nation's soul upon his back, Australia's Ark of the Covenant, set before the people, perfect, loved like a god." Tui and Taylor also mentioned that Phar Lap's trainer, Harry Telford's own tribute, acknowledges the almost religious power of Phar Lap, as he describes the champion as an angel and having greater sense than a human. During Phar Lap's reign on the racetrack, national identity had been at its lowest. According to Cannon, the disillusionment of the Great Depression in the early 1930s doubled personal bitterness and a sense of individual failure. Their sense of belonging was missing, and the people were crying out for a saviour. This climate of despair, coupled with the already adopted patriotic significance of sport, was what magnified the effect of Phar Lap's victories. Willis describes Phar Lap as an unexpected champion who raced consistently well. His humble beginnings with his impoverished owner Telford and slow start to success made him the underdog, a notion Australians could strongly identify with and held a deep affection for. Phar Lap's career was filled with obstacles of cruelty and controversy, and Shah observes that his ability to defy these odds brought hope and emotional uplift to the Australian people. The manner in which Phar Lap triumphed over adverse conditions demonstrated a perseverance that people desperately sought for during their times of hardship. His success story appealed to the hopes and dreams of many ordinary Australians, inspiring a nation that had lost hope. Willis states that he was also a safe bet. His string of wins guaranteed the poor an easy-made profit, and led him to become the piece of certainty in a time of great economic uncertainty. Ultimately, it was the combination of Phar Lap's kinship to the ordinary Australians, his capacity to persevere and succeed in a time of great suffering, in a country that associated their patriotic sentiment with sport that permitted him to receive such high public regard. He was perceived not just as a symbol of hope, but alike an immortal god by a nation, and this strong public perception, coupled with the prominence of sport in Australian culture, has enabled his legacy to be remembered in each generation since.
created using Powtoon.